So welcome everyone. This is the multifamily NOFA 2. So when we say like home multifamily NOFA 2, that means the second one because we had one, if you're not aware, back in April. So this is the second NOFA this year in 2024. However, there are a few differences. So do pay attention to the presentation today so that you can note those differences as you're applying should you choose to do so. The solicitation ID is N091824. So you'll need to know that. Please do make note of that when you apply. And if I can get everyone just to mute their mics unless you're presenting. So the agenda today, we'll just go over the funding, the solicitation schedule, what this NOFA is about, and then we'll have a long session about the different compliance requirements. Each person here at HCD will go over their section. And then at the end of the presentation, I will show you how to get to the NOFA, how to submit the application, and then we'll do the Q&A. So that's kind of how things will go today. We'll move a little quickly because there's a lot of information. If you've ever attended one of these, you know there is a lot of information. So just hang in there and let's go. All right, so first of all, the funding source will be mostly home funds. $20 million is the max here. So, you know, it will depend on the amount of applications, how much people are requesting, how many are awarded from that 20 million. The timeline is the NOFA was published on our website on the 18th of September. Today we're having the pre-application conference and the question submittal deadline. So that is any questions that you have related to the application will be due by October 9th at 5 p.m. And on a later slide, I'll explain how to do that. But you can see an email down there at the bottom of the slide that says mail to HCD_NOFA at HoustonTX.gov. That's where all your questions should go. Myself and Jamila Glover man that email, so somebody will always be able to sorry, like I lost control of my computer, so I'm pausing. All right, somebody will always answer those emails. And then everything needs to be turned in by October 18th at 3 p.m. That includes the application fee check, which you will have to bring in person to 2100 Travis. So again, we'll go over that on a later slide. Okay, I am going to hand it off to my colleague, Daniel Pinto with the multifamily team.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Pinto. I'm with the multifamily team. I'm a staff analyst here. All right, next slide. All right, so I'm going to briefly talk about the loan terms of this NOFA. The awards will be structured as non-amortized loans payable at maturity and subordinate to senior debt. The repayment, we will have a repayment obligation in the event of a sale or refinance. These loans will be at 1% interest only, and they will be subject to the cash flow. And we will have a minimum 20-year loan term and LURA. And as always, our LURA is going to be senior to all other liens. Next slide, please. For our eligible activities, nothing much is changing on this side. We will do consider new constructions, rehabilitations, the demo projects with a reconstruction element to them. We'll cover project-related soft costs, and we will be also looking at PSH units. Next slide, please. In terms of our threshold items, as always, we want projects that are located within the Houston city limits. Census tracts it cannot exceed 25% poverty. If they do, they must be mitigated by a concerted revitalization area. The applicant should be in good standing with the city. We should at least have a minimum of 64 units in the application itself. Let me see. The developer should be able to demonstrate successful development of a minimum of at least 5 affordable units. We will be the request actually must be a minimum of 1.5 million and cannot exceed 3. For this NOFA, it's a little bit different because you can request up to $4 million if you have a generator backup for critical functions. This relates to the electrical failure plan that I'll talk about in a little bit. Also, we will have an application fee of $1,500, and these projects should not be located in a 100-year floodplain. And as always, you shouldn't be debarred or suspended. Next slide, please. In terms of our priorities, we're looking at projects specifically located in the Greater Third Ward or recipient of the HUD Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. We will be looking at 2024 or earlier 9% tax credits or current active bond reservations for 4% tax credits. Next slide, please. In terms of our scoring criteria, this is kind of holding constant from what we've been looking for before. We like to see applications that demonstrate organizational experience, and this could be anything from financial capacity to experience with real estate. In terms of site location, we are prioritizing CRAs, the concerted revitalization areas, and kind of focusing on a deconcentration of poverty. There should be access to local transit, and school performance is going to be a factor in that, as well as neighborhood amenities. For project information, this is kind of going to be where the emergency power management plan that I spoke about before is going to be in that section. The project readiness and how quickly that things can be mobilized and go towards city council and start construction is going to be definitely one of the defining factors. We're going to look at the sources and uses of the project, kind of see the composition of each one of these deals. In regards to financial analysis, we're going to look at the pro forma analysis, the debt coverage, a lot of different factors, the cost analysis and leverage. Next slide, please. And with that, I will hand it back to Lindsay.
Thanks, Dan. I do want to apologize to everyone. I realized as he started to speak that I did not introduce myself. I am Lindsay Broom. I am a staff analyst at the Department of Housing and Community Development, and I am your go-to person for everything related to the NOFA application. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Mike, if you wouldn't mind, talking about development standards.
Good morning. I'm Mike Forenza. I'll be the project manager overseeing these projects. Today, I'll be talking to you mostly about the ADA, the standards that we use for our ADA. If you've done a project with our department in the last 5 or 6 years, really nothing has changed. We're still using the same standard. It is the 2010 ADA standard with the 11 exceptions. And we'll also have fair housing, of course. If this is something that's new, if you're coming into the NOFA new, please know that ADA standards can really mess up your project. If you have an architect that does not understand ADA, it can be a huge headache. So please, if you're new to this, make sure that your architect understands the ADA standards. Most of them will tell you they do, but what I've seen is they might not know as much as they really feel they know. And when it comes down to the bottom line, to your budget, not having it correctly can really affect your budget. So please, the standard is 2010 ADA with the 11 exceptions. I've said it 3 times because I really hope everybody will go and look it up and start to look at it. Maybe even go as far as to consult with a ADA consultant. Again, it's on the screen. We do fair housing with the 2010 ADA. And next slide, if I have one. The Energy Star, I think that's still me. You'll need to select one of the ones that are on the list and be able to show that you are compliant to that standard for the project to be completed. Next slide.
Okay, I think that was it for you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we're going to move into our compliance requirements. We're going to go a little bit out of order, and we're going to start with Davis-Bacon. So just give me a second while I move to that slide.
I have a
All
quick
right.
question while we're waiting.
I think we're going to do all our questions at the end, but you can put them in the chat. Okay, Michelle, can you go ahead?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I will be covering the Davis-Bacon and related acts. Next slide, please. Okay. The DBRA, the Davis-Bacon and related acts general guide. The purpose is to protect communities and workers from non-local contractors underbidding on local wage levels. The acts cover the Davis-Bacon Act, the Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, the Copeland Anti-Kickback Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and it includes the labor and also administrative oversight. The applicability, okay. It extends to any contract that exceeds the $2,000 amount. And please note that all requirements apply to all lower tier contracts independent of the amount. It covers alterations, repair, redecorating, etc., and all work incidental to the project. Next slide, please. Okay. The prevailing wage rates are issued before the pre-bid meeting. The rates are locked in by the pre-bid meeting date and are subject to the execution of the general construction contract. And there are some exceptions. Next slide, please. Okay. Contractors and subcontractors, including all lower tier subcontractors, must notify and pay construction workers the hourly prevailing wage rate based on their trade. It also requires for weekly pay and have verifiable proof of payment that itemizes the rate of pay based on all hours worked. It requires the submission of weekly certified payroll through the LCP Tracker web portal, which is accessible via your phone, tablet, or PC. They are also required to submit all initial required compliance documents prior to starting work on site. And they must submit payroll and supporting documentation such as proof of payment, timesheets, a copy of the itemized French benefit plans, also if there's any apprentices programs, etc. Next slide, please. Okay. The DBRA mandated contract documents should include the Federal Labor Standards Provision, the HUD Form 4010, a copy of the General Wage Determination, more commonly referred as the prevailing wage rates. Next slide, please. Okay. A pre-bid meeting will be held prior to the contract. This is the best time to provide the bidding contractors an overview of the prevailing rates and our requirements. A pre-con meeting will be held in accordance with 29 CFR Part 5, and a pre-construction conference must be held prior to the work beginning on the project. An onboarding meeting will be scheduled before construction starts. The contract administrator must complete the onboarding trading session with the compliance representative for the GC. Next slide, please. After the contract award, prevailing wage rates are subject to change when a contract or order is amended to include any additional substantial contract construction not included in the scope of work, or perform work for an additional time period not originally obligated to include when an option is exercised on a contract or order. Next slide, please. Here is our contact information. Please feel free to contact us with any questions, any assistance that we can provide. We'll be glad to help. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, Melissa, take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Melissa Lackey, and I'm the Environmental Administration Manager here for HCD. Next slide, please. All right. For these projects, an environmental review under 24 CFR Part 58 is required for this project. This is because it will be a federally funded project. New construction activities require an environmental assessment level of review, which is a little bit lengthy, and it will require what's called an AUGF, or an authority to use grant funds, prior to the performance of any physical work or a commitment of any funds. Next slide, please. You will be required to supply a current ASTM compliant Phase 1 environmental site assessment and it cannot be older than 6 months at the time that we issue the public notice. So if you already have one and it's within 1 year of age, it will require an update. If it's past 1 year of age, then a new phase 1 will be required. HUD and non-HUD funds cannot be committed on any activity until HUD issues the AUGF or clearance. Non-HUD funds can be used to undertake some activities of the project, but there are limitations. Please consult 24 CFR 58.22, which explains what's called a choice limiting action. This really limits your ability to complete any physical work, and it limits your ability to acquire a property after the project becomes federal. HUD does allow for an option agreement to achieve site control. So if you are in the process of acquiring a site or trying to get site control, please make sure that it is under an option agreement in order to do so. Next slide. The environmental review for development activities may be completed in one of 2 ways. If you already have an outside environmental consultant, you can choose to use them to put together the 24 CFR Part 58 environmental review, after which they'll submit it to us. We will review and adopt and do all the consultation periods. Or you can ask us to complete the Part 58 environmental review in-house with the information provided by the developer. Timing of the environmental review process and receipt of the AUGF varies greatly, and it depends on the level of preparation by the developer. A minimum expectation for an EA level review would be approximately 90 days. Sites in the 100 and 500 year floodplains will require additional floodplain notice periods. I believe Daniel did say that it should be out of the 100 year. If you do have 500 year floodplain on the property, it will require additional floodplain notice periods. Sites with contamination and toxic, noise, or historical mitigation requirements may also take longer to review. Next slide. We are here to help in any way. You can speak to the environmental team at any time about compliance requirements. We have a number of people that monitor our email. It's hcdenvironmental@houstontx.gov. We are always available in case you need to ask any questions about compliance. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, up next we have Crystal with URA.
Hello, I'm Crystal Scruggs, a Management Analyst 3 with the City of Houston, and I will be covering the Uniform Relocation Act section of this presentation, also known as the URA, Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Act. Next slide. URA is a federal law that establishes minimum standards for federal or federally assisted programs and projects that require the acquisition of real property or displaced persons from their homes, businesses, or farms. It places emphasis on fair and equitable treatment to displaced persons. Activities that trigger URA are acquisition with a transfer of title, rehabilitation, new construction, and demolition/conversion. Next slide. Some of the URA thresholds are that there are no monetary thresholds. So if you even have $1 of federal funds, URA will apply to your project or program. And URA applies to the project or program independent of how federal funds are used. Next slide. The first stage in the URA process is the application that is considered the preliminary phase. The NOFA application is submitted along with any prerequisites, URA, and acquisition documents. City Council is the beginning of the second phase in the URA process. This stage would consist of notices being issued to tenants, if applicable to your project. The last stage in the URA process is monitoring. In this phase, if applicable to the project, relocation starts, submission of tenant files is required, and URA monitoring review is conducted. Next slide. If the project will consist of relocation, whether residential or non-residential, the following documents will need to be submitted immediately after award notification. For projects with acquisition, you will need to submit a URA assurance letter, a notice to seller, a seller occupancy certification, and initial title commitment. If relocation is applicable, then you must submit a relocation plan, relocation budget, initial rent roll, and the templates that will serve as the general information notice, also known as the GIN, within 30 days of your application submission. The forms can be found on the City at the Houston Housing and Community Development website on the Compliance tab. Next slide. The developer will need to ensure that the relocation administrator is knowledgeable and understands URA the HUD and the HUD Handbook 1378. Both are a great resource on the processes of relocation and provide basic information on important topics such as budgeting and property acquisition. Next slide. The general information notice should be issued within 30 days of your proposal being submitted to the city. This serves as a notification that you have applied for city funds and changes may be in the works. It is imperative that once you submit the proposal application, that you also include a monthly rent roll and a tenant status report. This informs the city of all tenants living on the property that may be eligible for relocation assistance. Please do not relocate any tenants until the city has approved the project. If your project consists of demolition or converting a lower income dwelling, then 1-for-1 replacement is triggered and those units must be replaced with another lower income dwelling. Next slide. For more information on URA, such as what activities trigger URA and access required forms when URA is applicable to the project, or a general overview, please visit the Houston TXGOV/housing/compliance website. And last slide, please. Please note URA contact information and send us an email if you have any questions on URA and its processes. This concludes my presentation on URA. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Okay, we've already went through Davis-Bacon. All right, up next we have Lakeisha.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lakeisha Tates, the Administration Manager with Housing Community Development Contract Compliance. I will be providing the City of Houston's Minority Women's Small Business Enterprise, HUD Section 3, and the City of Houston Pay or Play compliance requirements for the 2024 Home Multifamily NOFA 2 Pre-Application Conference. The Minority Women's Small Business Enterprise, known as MWSBE program requirements, is governed by the 2 CFR 8536 and the City of Houston's Chapter 15 Ordinance Part 5. The sole purpose is to promote the growth and success of MWSBE firms by ensuring local firms are affordable equal opportunities that promote utilization and eliminate discrimination. The MWSBE program compliance requirements for construction awards under the Home Multifamily NOFA is advertised with a 38% MWBE goal, which the breakdown is that 30% should be designated to minority business enterprise and 8% designated with women business enterprises. MBE and WBE goals are two separate goals that must be met individually. Only 4% SBE can be used to meet either your MBE or your WBE goal, but both cannot get 4%. The City of Houston now allows MWBE primes to meet advertised goals by self-performing up to 50% of the total contract goals. So MWBE primes will have the choice to select which goal they would like to receive credit towards on the construction project, either the minority business enterprise goal or the women business enterprise goal. Once that MWBE prime selects a goal type for participation, the prime participation will be capped at their proposed percentage or the approved goal, whichever one is lower. The prime contractor shall make good faith efforts to award subcontracts or supply agreements to MWSBEs to achieve these goal requirements. Only firms certified through the City of Houston Office of Business Opportunity can be used to meet the MWBE goal requirements. For more information about the City of Houston MWSBE certification process and to review the online directory, which have over 5,000 qualified firms, please visit houston.mwdbe.com/. Next slide, please. The Section 3 program requirements are governed by 24 CFR Part 75. The Section 3 program requires that recipients of certain HUD financial assistance to the greatest extent possible provide training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities to low and very low income persons, especially recipients of government assistance for housing, and to businesses that provide economic opportunities to low and very low income persons. Next slide. Any contractor with contractors of a contract more than 100,000 for housing construction, rehabilitation, or public construction are required to meet numerical Section 3 goal requirements. Compliance with goal requirements can only be achieved by subcontracting with a certified Section 3 business concern and employing Section 3 workers. If new contracting or employment opportunities arise, then contractors are required to meet the following.
Lakeisha, are you still there? I think she may have gotten kicked off. Just give her a moment. If not, we'll move forward and we can come back. Okay, I'm going to move forward to Chris, but all of this, the slide deck and the recording and all of this information will be available on the website, so you can go back and look at what the slides that you missed. Chris, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here. So
Okay.
I can definitely go and give Lakeisha some time
Okay.
to get back on board. Good morning, everyone. I am Chris Robinson. I'm with the Complaints and Appeals team. Next slide for me. All right. So, sorry, Lindsay, it still looks like it's showing the like the grid view instead of the actual slides.
Can you see it now?
Can you double click on that slide and maybe it'll pop up all the way?
Yeah, I don't know. That's not what I'm seeing on my end. I'm seeing it. I'm not seeing the grid
Okay,
view.
maybe it's just me. Okay, that's all right. So we have two forms of grievances that you can file with the City of Houston, with our department. There's a complaint and an appeal. A complaint is a communication from a member of the public to any elected official or a city employee, which includes a concern or grievance regarding the operations of HCDD. This could include anything related to processing time. Maybe it takes too long to process an application or proposal. Maybe you're looking for a status update. You feel that a reasonable amount of time has passed and you haven't heard anything about your NOFA. If there's a program requirement that you have a concern with or an issue, maybe like the actual program guidelines or something in the NOFA, you can certainly file a complaint about that. Or maybe you believe that there's a conflict of interest with a staff member or something. It could be almost anything. You can file a complaint with us. However, complaints are not accepted during the NOFA no contact period, so you'll have to wait for some time. But after that, you're more than welcome to file a complaint. There is also the appeal. This is after a program, or in this case, the NOFA team has made a determination about your proposal. You can file a complaint about that proposal. This is restricted to program participants, and that includes anybody who has actually participated in this NOFA process. So, and you have also received a determination letter. Usually our turnaround time frame would be 30 days for appeals. However, with NOFAs, because of the time frame that we're working with, the response time is 7 days. And I forgot to mention that the response time for complaints is 15 days. And I've provided a link for both the complaints and appeal web pages in this slide. Next slide, please. All righty. So who can file a complaint? I said this earlier. The answer for a complaint is any member of the public. That includes program participants. Program participants includes applicants, developers, contractors, agencies, bidders, vendors, and subrecipients. For appeals, only program participants can file the appeal. If you wish to file a complaint or an appeal, please make sure that you submit your first and last name, your address, your organization, if that is applicable, the name of the project or NOFA that you're referencing for that complaint and appeal, a good contact number, and an email if you wish to be contacted by email, and your preferred contact method and the reason for your complaint or appeal. Next slide, please. All righty. So I'm going to talk more about appeals. There are 3 levels of appeals. The 3rd level doesn't apply to this program. That's only for disaster recovery funds from Harvey. So you'll only be able to file up to 2 appeals. The first appeal is where the program area will review any documentation that's submitted and either reiterate the initial determination or approve your appeal and overturn that determination. If for some reason you do not agree with the decision that was made in the initial appeal, you have the right to file a Tier 2 appeal, in which case the appeal review committee will review all of the documentation, all the supporting documents that you send with respect to your appeal, and they will render a final decision. And in both cases, you will receive a written response from my team or the program area regarding the decision made on your appeal. Now, there are some important timelines, and this has recently changed, so please take note of this. Any appellants must file an appeal request in writing within 5 calendar days of the award determination. And HCDD will also acknowledge receipt of your appeal within 1 business day. That does, so you have to give us some time. We're off on Saturdays and Sundays, but if you file, we'll definitely respond by, if you file on the weekend, we'll definitely respond by Monday. The appellant has 5 calendar days, however, to submit any supporting documents related to this appeal, and HCDD will render an appeal determination letter within 7 calendar days for NOFAs. It's also important to just note that every so often we will provide an extension on a case-by-case basis. An extension may be requested internally from HCDD staff who are working on the appeal, and in some cases by the appellant themselves. They must request this extension in writing, though, and provide a reason for missing that deadline. Next slide, please. All right, you can file a complaint in any of the methods that are dictated on this screen, which includes calling our complaints and appeals hotline at 832-394-6200, and you'll have to dial option 2. You can also email us at hcddcomplaintsappeal, no S on appeal, at houstontx.gov, or in person at our office, or you can send us some snail mail with your complaint in there. However, if you wish to file an appeal request, you must do it in writing. So that means you can only email or mail us, or you can come to the office and fill out an appeal form that we will have on site for you. If you have any questions following this presentation, you are more than welcome to call our team and ask us any questions about the complaints or appeals process. And I have also just dropped in the chat our contact information and links on how to file a complaint or request an appeal. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Lindsay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to, we have Lakeisha back, so I'm going to let her pick up where she left off. I think she was here on section 3.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. Sorry about that, you guys. My computer restarted. So I was into notifying you that any contractor with a contract of more than $100,000 for housing construction, rehabilitation, or public constructions are required to meet the Section 3 numerical goals. Compliance with goals requirements can only be achieved by subcontracting with a certified Section 3 business concern and employing Section 3 workers. So if there are any new contracting and employment opportunities shall arise on the developments, contractors are required to meet the following. We have the 10% hard cost goal. That means 10% of your total direct construction budget of your contract should be awarded to Section 3 businesses. And then you have a 3% soft cost. That means if you have a 3% soft cost budget, you will be required to direct those non-construction related activities to our Section 3 businesses. We also have a 30% new employment opportunities must be directed to Section 3 workers. We don't expect you to actively seek out and create any new opportunities, but if any new employment opportunities shall arise, then they should be directed to Section 3 workers. We have a new 25% Section 3 worker benchmark goal. That means 25% or more of the total labor hours worked should be performed by Section 3 workers, with at least 5% being performed by target Section 3 workers. In the next 3 slides, I'll provide additional information of what qualifies you as a Section 3 business concern and a Section 3 worker target worker. So Section 3 business concern will be that one of the categories is 51% of the business is owned and controlled by low or very low income persons who meet the annual income limits provided by HUD. Second category is over 75% of the labor hours performed for businesses over the prior 3 months are performed by Section 3 workers. You would have to provide evidence that 75% of those labor hours was performed by Section 3 workers over that time frame. Third category is a business at least 51% owned and controlled by a current public housing resident or residents who currently live in Section 3A assisting housing. Next slide. The qualifications for what qualify you as a Section 3 worker. So one of the categories is a worker income from the previous or current calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. You've been employed by a Section 3 business concern, or you are a youth build participant. A youth build participant is a community-based pre-apprentice program that provides job training and educational opportunities for at-risk youth between 16 and 24 who previously dropped out of high school. Next slide, please. Criteria for a Section 3 target worker. So a Section 3 target worker works on housing community development projects, financial assistance. One category is that you can be employed by a Section 3 business concern, or you currently fit on and hire at least one of the following categories and you have documented evidence to provide within the past 5 years. Living within the service area of the neighborhood of the project, which is a 1 mile area, or you are a youth build participant. Next slide, please. To receive your certification credit toward those Section 3 numerical goals, businesses and workers must be certified through the City of Houston Housing Community Development. That certification process takes 5 to 7 business days. Once you have submitted all the supporting documentation, you can complete that online Section 3 business concern application here at HCD website. And then for your Section 3 worker applications, you can submit those to HCD contract compliance at houstontx.gov, or now we have a digital application that can be submitted at the link provided. For more information in regards to Section 3 program requirements and certification, you can always visit houstontx.gov/housing/section3.html-section3. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we have the City of Houston's Pay or Play program requirements. The City of Houston Pay or Play program is governed by Executive Order 1 through 7. The purpose of the City of Houston program is to require certain contractors to provide certain employees a minimum level of health care benefits or contribute a designated amount to be used to offset costs of providing health care to uninsured people in the Houston and Harris County area. Next slide, please. So projects that are covered as pay or play projects will be professional services, construction, and service type contracts valued at or above $100,000, or subcontracts valued at $200,000. And this is including contingencies, amendments, supplemental terms, and change orders. Additionally, pay or play does not apply to any contract in which your primary purpose, meaning 51% or more, is the procurement of purchase of property, leases, goods, supplies, and equipment. Also, contractors that utilize self-employment, owner-operators, individuals to complete services such as truck drivers, your day laborers, or 1099 workers, are exempt from the City of Houston Pay or Play program. Next slide. To be a covered employee on a City of Houston covered contract, you would need to at least be over the age of 18, work at least 30 hours per week for that contractor, or any amount of time on a city covered contract or subcontract. Next slide. So one of the options, if you have a POP covered contract that elects the pay option, they will pay by contributing $1 per covered employee per regular hour for work performed under the contract with the city. City employees of those, that are 18 of age, they work at least 30 hours for their contract, and any amount of time on a city contract will be required, to either pay or pay. If you choose the pay option, then these funds are deposited into a contractor responsibility fund used to offset providing health care to uninsured people in the Houston and Harris County area. Unfortunately, the employees of the POP covered contractors will not receive the $1 per regular hour for work performed under the contract with the city. Next slide. If you're a POP covered contractor and you elect the play option, the contractor will provide healthcare benefits to covered employees. The healthcare benefits must meet or exceed the City of Houston following standards, which says that employer will contribute no less than 75% per covered employee per month toward the total premium cost. And that's single cost, single healthcare coverage cost. The employee contribution, if any amount, will be no greater than 25% of the monthly premium cost. Next slide. This concludes the contract compliance portion as it relates to HUD Section 3, City of Houston, MWSVE. If you have any questions regarding the pay or play requirements, you can always visit the pay or play website at www.houstonTX.gov/OBO/popforms.html. Thank you for your time, and we're excited about the opportunity to collaborate with you all.
Thank you, Lakeisha. All right. Up next is me. So what I'm going to walk you through is, number one, how to access the NOFA, how to read it, where to find it. And then the next part that I'll discuss is how to submit it. So to find all of our funding opportunities, you go to houstontx.gov/housing/funding. From that screen, you'll click on the button that says NOFA. And if we have an open NOFA at that time, it will show up in a section that says featured NOFAs. So right now, at this current time, we only have the multifamily NOFA open. So it's the only one there. So there should be no confusion about which one to click on. You'll see a recap of the NOFA. And then at that bottom of that box, you see view NOFA. So when you click on that, it should bring up a PDF of the NOFA. I suggest reading that in its entirety so that you know what are the requirements are, what the scoring criteria is, what the threshold requirements are, and any kind of federal regulation that may apply. So that's kind of your first step, is reading that NOFA, particularly paying attention to the scoring criteria, what we're going to be looking at, and what is going to be required for you to even apply, which is what we call our threshold, the things that you need to even move into like a scoring phase. Also in that little same box, you'll see view documents. So if you click on that, a pop-up will come up and it will say, it'll have all the documents that are required, all the forms that are required for this application. The first document that you see there says application workbook. For the multifamily NOFAs, this is where you find your checklist for your content of your application. So the application workbook is kind of where you start. You download that and then you move through the worksheets within that document, completing everything. I believe it's in blue, the things that you need to complete. So you move through the worksheets. And if you run into a required form, it should be here in this list right here. So for example, the conflict of interest form, you'll find there indemnity agreement and certifications form, ownership form. If you run into a form that is saying it's required, but you don't know how to find it, please contact me at hcd_NOFA@houstontx.gov, and I will figure out where that form is. So, but they all should be there, right there in that little box. Also, from the same website, there will be a button that says Document Submission Portal, and that is where you submit the document. So let me walk you through the submission portal. So if you haven't used this portal before, it can be a little finicky. You have to do everything that it asks in the way that it asks it, because it can go a little haywire if you don't do what it wants. So the main thing is when you click the link and you get to this screen right here that you can see on my screen. The first box says, is this a NOFA? And you say yes. That's the first step. The second step is when it says the project number or the solicitation number, you have to put in that number that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, that N091824. If you don't put in that number correctly, just that, how I said it, no dashes, nothing like that, then the form itself will not populate correctly. You won't get the right fields that you need for your documents. So please just make sure you do those first two steps correctly. And when you do, the next screen that you can see here, it will already say, 2024 home multifamily NOFA 2. So you'll know that, yes, this is the correct form for me. If I put in the number correctly, I can see here that it's populated the title of the NOFA correctly. I'm on the right page. I want to say a few things about the portal. One, it times out. So if you open it and you start uploading some things, and then you walk away and go have your lunch and you come back, that portal will be timed out and you'll have lost everything that you uploaded, because it's not like a save and continue kind of situation. You sit down, you upload everything at one time, and then you're done. If you hit submit too soon and you haven't uploaded everything, that's not a big deal. Just send me an email and I will delete, or have our administrator delete your old application, the accidental one, and you can submit a new one. So if you run into any issues here, like submitting the documentation, I'm definitely your first person to call, and I don't mind walking you through that. And you can see here that this shows every document that you need to submit. I ask that you be really thorough about doing this, because when I receive your application and I open it, I'm going to look for the documents that we asked for in the places on this portal. So if you kind of flip something into the wrong section, it could happen that I might miss it, right? Because I'm looking for the document here where it was asked to be submitted. Sometimes I catch it if it's in the wrong place, but sometimes I don't. So I'm just asking you to just be very thorough about where you upload your documents and try to put them in the correct place here. So everything that's required for this NOFA should be listed there. If when you are submitting, you see something that doesn't look right, please just let me know. And also at the bottom of this page, there will be the threshold requirements, and the NOFA states those out. So you'll just have supporting documentation for each threshold requirement. They'll also submit on the same portal. Seems like I wanted to tell you one more thing about the portal. You can submit multiple documents. What I ask is that if you say, I don't know, for designs or something, you have like 5 different documents. If you are able to combine those into one PDF, it's a little bit easier, because whatever you named the file, when you upload it into this portal names it its own thing. So I can't really see what that document is easily. So it's easier for me if you have designs and they're all in one PDF, and I can say, okay, this is their design document. If you upload 10 different documents, all it says to me is like design, 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 design. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what the difference between the documents are. So even if you may have named them something very obvious, I don't see that on my end. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about the no contact period, which began technically when the NOFA was issued, which was the 18th of September. And starting to that date until the NOFA has been awarded to City Council, or recommended to City Council, the award has been recommended to City Council, you should have no contact with the program area. let me talk a little bit more about what that means. So if you have another project that you're working on with someone at HCD or with the multifamily team, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to your relationship manager or whoever it is at the city. What really this no contact means is that, as the slide says, the person acting on behalf of the applicant should not attempt to influence the outcome of the award. So if you're talking about something completely unrelated to this particular application, that's fine. And same thing goes if you're reaching out, let's say to environmental, to ask them questions about how to submit, the documentation they require. As long as you're not trying to attempt to influence the outcome of the award, then you're good. This goes also to any kind of city representative that applies to city council as well. You can reach out to them, but not in an attempt to influence the outcome of the application. Because obviously we have had people who have a good relationship with their council member and they want to win. And so they reach out to their council members. Can you just, send us a recommendation? That's not allowed. So if you have documentation that you have support from your council member, whatever, that should be uploaded with your application. It shouldn't be something that comes as an aside, because what we want is that everyone have a fair advantage. Also will say that nothing prevents you from making public statements to City Council, convene for a regularly scheduled session after the official selection has been made and placed on the agenda for action. Then you're obviously more than welcome to come as a member of the public to that City Council meeting. Okay, that is all the content that we have. Oh, one thing I saw on a slide back there, it talked about having 3 business days to correct any deficiencies. So we do have what we call as a cure period. So you submit the application on the 18th. I receive it. I start doing what we call threshold review. I look at the documentation that you provided, and I'm checking to make sure that you met the threshold before you can even move into like what we call scoring phase, where the application goes to the evaluators. If I see that you are missing something, I will give you 3 business days from the time that I email you, and I'll give you, please have it to me by this date to submit that. These are what we call non-material items, forms you may have missed, something that you overlooked, maybe sometimes a form that's not signed. We don't accept material things. So like you missed your application workbook, that's material that's going to affect the outcome of your score. So that type of thing we don't allow you to cure. It's only the non-material items that don't have a large impact on your overall application, but are still required. And I do usually allow you to cure your threshold items. So let's say you forgot to submit one of the threshold items, then I let you know that and ask you to submit that. Okay. So we're right at time, but did anybody have some questions that they wanted to ask? I will say this, that all the questions that have been put in the chat, I see that some multifamily team members have been responding to those. If your question was not answered, it will be answered and put into a letter for clarification that we will also put on that same website that I showed you earlier. Please always make sure you look at that website before you submit, because if there is a letter of clarification, you'll need to read that, because oftentimes it just explains something, a change or anything that may have been asked by another person, and the city made additional clarification. You want to read that because it can impact sometimes your application package. So always make sure you check that website first to read those letters of clarification. That's like our method for communicating with you. Also, you can, at any time before October 9th, you can send me an email to the HCD_NOFA@houstontx.gov, a question. And if I am not able to answer it, I will forward it to the multifamily team and have them answer it, and I will respond to you. I'll respond to your email, and then I'll also publish it in a letter for clarification so that other people can have access to that answer as well. Okay. Did anyone have any question that you can raise your hand and ask a question now if you'd like. This question I just saw come up. I would ask that someone from the multifamily team could answer this. Could we please explain and describe what we need to include in the electrical failure plan? Ryan, Dan, are you there?
Hey, Dan, it's Mike. You want me to try this or you want it?
Go ahead,
Okay,
Mike.
Dan might be on another call. What we are looking for in this is your plan to make sure that the residents have an available space to go, a cooling area, a place to go to charge their phones, a place to even watch TV, watch the news, use their laptops or computers that are there just to stay connected during a power outage. They would have an area that they could go ahead and use. That's what we're looking for. We do not want to spell out any list of items that we want. We want you to tell us what you can do, what you plan to do, and we will look at that. But we do. Those are the kind of the large requirements. An area to go in and get cooled off or warmed up. An area that they can charge their phone, their laptop, use their laptops or computers, and be able to connect to the news. I hope that answers
Essentially,
your
the
question.
safety of the tenants when there's an electrical failure, we need to know what your plans are for the tenant. So, you know, after a few hurricanes, we have issues with the tenants being left out with no power. So we would like to know what your plans are. So if you can elaborate that in your application.
Thank you, guys. And again, this will also be answered in a letter of clarification. So I will, usually what I do is I transcribe what we discussed today, but I also will reach back out to multifamily and Ryan's team and ask them to come up with a cohesive response to that. So more details may come out in that response. So just please check that letter of clarification. We have one environmental question. Can a phase 1 environmental site assessment dated within the last 12 months be submitted with the NOFA application and updated during underwriting? Melissa, are you still on the call?
I am, yes. And yes, absolutely. You can provide us a phase 1 ESA within the last 12 months, and then you can update it during the environmental review process or during the NOFA process. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a minimum percentage of net cash flow we should assume must go toward the home loan annual interest payment? Lauren, what we can do, because I am not actually sure if everyone is still on the call, but any of these questions that you guys are putting in the chat, I will have Ryan and team answer. Also, if the letter of clarification takes usually, let's say, 3 business days for me to transcribe all this and then get it published on the website. So if you want your answer to your question more quickly than that, if you can just put your email into the chat, I can email you your question, the answer to your question directly, so that you don't have to wait for the letter of clarification to be published. Hold on, I'm just gonna look back. What about for qualified projects? Will projects in unincorporated Houston ETJ qualify? If not, will there be consideration if there are plans to annex the site to the city of Houston proper? Is anybody from multifamily able to answer that?
Juanita just responded.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm kind of behind a little bit here.
Yeah, if you can send us like the list of questions and that way we can properly respond back to
Yeah.
everyone would be.
Okay, yeah, because we're also about 10 minutes over time. So
Mhm.
I'm going to leave this chat open for a bit. So if you have questions that weren't answered, put them there. Like I said, put your email address so that I can email you directly. And we will have the multifamily team answer those questions and get that response back to you. So I appreciate everyone attending and I look forward to seeing your applications. I do know the answer to that. The 1,500 application fee is not refundable if you're not chosen, no. And that needs to be, I want to state that that needs to be submitted at 2100 Travis, 9th floor reception. There's a gentleman there who has a sign-in sheet, so you'll sign in your check, and that will be delivered to the multifamily team.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. And again, I will leave the chat open for a bit. So just put your question and then also put your email. Thanks.